Pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline.
It's your morning addiction.
Tish James has refused to prosecute anti-Semitic hate crimes.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
We added Election Integrity to Save America Act with some funding for troops and farmers.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Good afternoon. Today, at President Trump's direction, the United States Treasury has begun Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran and its enablers.
Well, there it is, Scott Bessent announcing Economic Outcast, a new word. I thought it was going to be Economic D-Day, and it is actually going to be an Economic D-Day, they claim, as they are going to gather a coalition, they say, of the willing to strangle Iran financially. Welcome into Wake Up Missouri. Stephanie Bell in with Randy. I'm he and John and Callie and Drake and the whole crew. And it's the big story. What is it going to mean for you, for your oil supplies, for your gas at the pump, for the retail items you buy? Will Iran retaliate as they said they did, Stephanie, with they're going to have apparently more action at the Strait? They're going to try to choke the rest of the world from its oil supply. Whether or not they can deliver that, I don't know. But it's a big question on the table. The other question on the table is the Supreme Court gave Trump a win. And I don't know if it's temporary or not, but they put a stay on a judge's order that that said that the United States Postal Service needs to mail out those ballots, even to non-citizens or even to everyone that the states want them to mail out to. Tell us more about what that means. Was that a big win? Was it just a temporary win? Is it going to hold through the midterms? What does it mean?
There was a lot of debate on Twitter because both sides were like, this is the biggest thing ever. And people are like, no, like many Supreme Court decisions, it really is more of a procedural question. In one instance, it kind of directed people to do anything, but didn't require them to do anything. And the court basically said, until they act, you don't have the harm necessary to hold a stay. So it really is a procedural step, whether then they will follow through with that executive order and do what is in there, and that they can accomplish that before midterms. And then there's not another tie up in court, so it's a lot of people were like, this is huge. And people are like, wait. This is really not as huge as people are making it out to be.
Well, the executive order said that, the United States Postal Service will not send mail-in ballots to people who are not citizens, and they want to have a federal eligibility role, if you will. And the states were saying, well, no, that's a state issue. We're the ones that are supposed to control elections. A judge said, yeah, the states are right. And now the Supreme Court says, well, like you said, for the time being, that judge's order is not in play. And I guess that the United States Postal Service issued a statement that they're not going to send them out, right?
Well, and so what the provision of the executive order actually did was it ordered the Postal Service to initiate the process of proposing a rule that might bind the states in the future. The order wasn't a proposed rule, the court said, let alone a final rule. They said there's an attenuated chain of inferences that you'd have to get to. And they said if the Postal Service, if they do issue a final rule and the final rule harms the states, then they may challenge that rule.
I thought it was interesting that the ruling allows Homeland Security to move ahead and put together their list of, for lack of a better term, vetted voters.
This is weird, and they can't. But a lot of the states aren't sending them the information they want. Is that a separate deal, or all folded into this whole issue? Because the states are really resisting. A lot of the blue states, for sure, they don't want to send them the data.
Right, and I think that's why they were trying to use various state departments, including the Postal Service, because obviously the Postal Service has a lot of data at its fingertips. I don't know specifically where all the litigation. I mean, this was the highest profile, but I think there are multiple stages and multiple suits going on about the states themselves and what they can be compelled to do or what they can do themselves.
Yeah, the finalized rule cannot go into effect until under an outstanding federal injunction. This is so bizarre. Well, it's a big win. He got a win to go ahead on the on the ballroom over the weekend, or maybe it was late Friday. Now he's got this, which is good. And this was a 6-3 along, people say partisan lines. I would say along proper lines, wouldn't you? And I'm glad to see him. So that's good news.
Yeah, what they said specifically about the list is the court said that it simply instructed the DHS secretary to create the state citizenship list, and that is just an internal directive from the president to a subordinate, and it doesn't actually require the states to do anything.
Well, maybe I would wouldn't 573-874-9390, 800-529-5572. Wouldn't we all like to see that a state that is obstinate, what are they afraid of? If they don't want to send a list in confirming or allowing the DHS or whoever is going to validate that and curate it, the federal government, to make sure that at least in federal elections, I don't even know, does this apply to municipal and state? I assume it applies to federal elections. If they're not going to participate in this proper adjudication of who can vote and who can't, well, then poop on them. Sorry, we're not going to send in your mail-in ballots. That's fine. I hope
Steph, what happens with this? What happens with this on those 20-some Democratic states? Can they still file lawsuits to stop this? Can they still go ahead and mail out ballots ahead of the November election?
Well, I think what it said is that it directed DHS to create the list, and it doesn't, that the states aren't actually harmed because it doesn't compel the states to do anything. So if the court's saying that it doesn't compel the states, then the question is, can they be compelled, or does it just authorize those willing states to go ahead and go forward?
So a lot of uncertainty, and maybe the court will clean this up before. There's a lot of logistical things here, right? Because you said, or maybe it was last week we talked, that when does early voting start? Like September 15th in one state, I think, right?
There
early.
are some states that start really early.
And then October, like a month before a lot of states, right? But by first week in October. So, it's going to take a lot of time, depending on how these things all work out, for people to, the secretaries of state and the local clerks and everything, to get their act in order. But boy, oh boy, I'm just glad to see Trump doubling down on this, really firmly going down on election integrity. I don't care if it's 1 or 100,000 people that were illegal that voted or that were registered to vote. It doesn't matter. Non-citizens should not vote. Who disagrees with that?
A lot of Democrats.
Yeah.
And
23 states.
I mean, they need to be in an insane asylum. How do they justify that? It is on its face just unjustified. You cannot justify it.
According to the AP, some military and overseas ballots are expected to begin going out on September 4th. And I think North Carolina absentee ballots begin going out September 4th. So we are really close.
And we're not talking about absentee ballots here, right? I mean, Trump voted in the Florida primary. He voted absentee because he's not there. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, Minnesota and Virginia begin early absentee in-person voting September 18th. And then mail ballots in Illinois go out September 24th, which is also the first day of early voting. So we, I think most Missourians now are used to our 2 weeks no excuse absentee, and a lot of people have been taking advantage of that, but many states do a much longer early voting period.
And then in other news that affects your pocketbook or at will, Donald Trump yesterday hit back at Prime Minister Carney in Canada, who has launched a trade war after talks broke down last week. Each side said the other side brought last-minute issues to the table that they just couldn't comply with. Trump calls them clowns in one statement. Says they've been ripping off the United States of America for years. Calling other leaders in other states, other nations,
especially
clowns.
Canada.
I know.
This seems totally unnecessary. I mean, if there was any friendlier, nicer people that seem just like us, except they've got bad government and bad health care. I mean, as someone
and
who
it's cold.
Yeah, as not necessarily. I mean, I was on a beach up there last week. As someone who just crossed the border, drove across the border last week. I mean, this just picking a fight with people who should be your friends. This seems
don't we have enough people in the world who hate us?
Yeah, the Canadians don't want you dead. They don't have. The meanest thing a Canadian will do is blow bubbles at you. I mean, They're like they're like the nicest people. I mean, why are we picking a fight with them? They've got stuff we need. We've got stuff they need. Let's sell our stuff to them and let them sell their stuff to us. I don't get it.
I heard one analyst say that the cost of a home due to tariffs overall since last March is up about $8,000. Now that's average, right? $8,000, which is significant. And this 50%.
Yeah, go price some framing lumber right now.
Well, that's the thing. 50% duties now that went into effect, what'd you say, or midnight Saturday, right?
I think that's when the talks broke
And then
down.
those are the duties that include hockey sticks and building materials. Big deal there.
That's a big part.
And on the other hand,
Cars.
like you say, we can't, now they're going to punish American manufacturers and others that are wanting to export to Canada. They're our third largest source of imports. And like you say, we get along well with the Canadians. Why would you pick a fight with them?
The
Frustrating.
timing is bad.
Well, I don't know.
Whoa. I'm going to fight back. You said that we have a good relationship with the Canadians. I hate Canadians,
Except for
Randy.
hockey.
No, yeah, I hate Canadians.
As much as you hate Kansasians?
Oh, no. Kansas on top. But Canada, country-wise, I hate them.
Yeah. And then another thing that's going to affect you in the pocketbook, it's not a widely publicized story, but have you been following this potential merger between Paramount and the Warner Brothers Discovery, and how that will consolidate your online potentially choices, and what will that mean? Higher prices and talks. There was some kind of a settlement that was going to happen. There was going to be a meeting in California with the Attorney General there. Bonta is his name, and so apparently there were leaks going on about what was happening during the discussions and some of the details of the conclusion. And now, don't know where that's going to happen. But we've talked about this before. Consolidation in that industry does affect and can affect what you pay for streaming services. When there's not as much competition and there's not as much fragmentation, that's potentially going to hit you in the pocketbook.
At the same time, we see a lot of organizations collapsing or laying people off because the government's up in their business trying to tell them what to do.
Right. Gummit in your business. Looking out for you. Let's see what's happening in D.C. when Stephanie brings you the Daily D.C. Rundown in a moment.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
When I think about players taking a knee during the national anthem, I think that the very thing that they're taking a knee on, I think is not being taken into consideration. I think everyone's kind of focusing on the flag and the national anthem opposed to what's really the cause of why he's taking a knee.
back to school. We've also got Economic D-Day, which is now called Operation Economic Outcast. That's spelled with a C, not a K, John, so not your...
Darn.
Yeah, but we are sanctioning approximately 60 entities, individuals, and vessels connected to Iranian oil, missiles, nuclear procurement, and cyber operations. We're also expanding our previous targets to anyone operating in Iran's technology, aviation, shipping, and digital asset sectors, trying to essentially cut them off. But they have also promised retaliation. We will continue to watch how that affects our economy. We will have the morning bell, of course, at 8:25. We also got a big ruling out of SCOTUS yesterday. It's not as big as some people want to make it out to be, but the Supreme Court voted 6-3 Monday to lift the injunction that was previously in place, blocking parts of Trump's mail voting executive order. The majority concluded that the Democrat-led states, which had challenged the executive order, essentially made their challenge too early before the Postal Service had finalized its actual procedures and its final rule. So just a procedural ruling yesterday. Also, we are learning that we are again in another fight with Canada. If you were wanting to buy these things, here are the deadlines you need to know. Starting January 1, Trump is threatening a 50% tariff on all Canadian cars, trucks, automotive parts, and steel. Again, that's January 1. That's on top of the 50% tariffs that took effect Saturday. That's on wine, furniture, cement, and other products, so you're out of luck there. On September 8th, Canada is saying they're going to do retaliatory tariffs on American dairy, appliances, electronics, and agriculture equipment. So it's heating up.
Did you say wine from Canada?
Have you had Canadian wine?
I'm not too worried about tariffs on Canadian wine, sorry.
They are very proud of it, and I have some Canadian friends, and they told me it was good. If you've had French wine or Napa wine,
oh my gosh,
it's
not so much. Yeah.
It's not my favorite.
No.
I will say that.
Wow.
Also, Trump is. You might be hearing about this mass visa revocation. The State Department plans to revoke up to 200,000 business and tourism visas held by foreigners who subsequently sought asylum. So it's important to know that revocation would not necessarily mean immediate deportation because many of those people have pending asylum cases.
Huh.
It's interesting. Also, we've got, remember that $100,000 H-1B fee? You were going to be able to pay your way in.
The gold card, the
gold card. A federal judge previously struck that down, finding Congress had the authority to impose such fees, but now they've repackaged it, saying it's simply a mechanism for recovering the administrative costs with implementing it. So we'll see if that survives court scrutiny as well.
Wait a minute. It cost $100,000 to issue a visa? Wait, I'm not buying that one. Hey, when we come back, you thought that the college sports scene was wonderfully clean and pure. What's an NFL owner doing in a mobile home court being arrested for prostitution, and the FBI in Ole Miss's locker room?
I think just local news is the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where a couple boys fight in the parking lot. No, nobody's gonna call the cops. Where I come from. See that door right there? Man, I swear that it ain't never been locked, and I guarantee that it never will. That old man right there in the rocking chair at the courthouse square.
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite news subject to talk about. I think anything that creates good discussion, anything that you can talk about with other people that
gas and fuel.
Maybe he was looking for a deal. He only paid $140. Is that a deal? That sounds like a deal.
That is a deal, but
Drake, would you know?
Why would you ask if I know?
Well, you sound authoritative on it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I can price. You're putting me in a corner, Randy. You're putting me in a box.
That's the goal. Thank you. You're welcome. Now, listen, no, all kidding aside, what in the world? First of all, if you're the owner of a team like that, wouldn't you think?
What's he worth? $500 million or something?
Also, they pled it down from a prostitution charge to disorderly conduct, and apparently he basically got off for a $1,000 fine.
And a lot of online people are saying, interesting, arrested, charged, adjudicated, convicted, released, all on a Sunday. Can the common bloke get that?
No.
Is the common bloke going to East Palestine to get a hooker? No.
No, but he might get a DWI or I don't know, some other, fisticuffs in the downtown bar or something.
Who are you Who are you hurting if you get, a prostitute? Yeah, it's illegal. I'm not endorsing it, but it's not like you're drunk driving where you could end up hurting someone or yourself or getting into a bar fight.
Might get cooties out of the deal.
Cooties would be a real concern, John.
Cooties
also,
would be get off hurt easy, right?
The operation involved this human trafficking task force. So I think that is the concern, is that when you're doing that kind of thing, that it's probably has a larger connection.
I wonder if he got a shot in the butt on a Sunday, too, all in one. Got everything all taken care of.
Like a rabies shot.
Stephanie,
I'm not thinking rabies, Stephanie. I'm not thinking rabies.
What? Wait.
Cooties to rabies, huh?
I'm not thinking rabies at all.
Trying to keep it radio appropriate.
All right.
No. Wait, we got to hold up on this. Stephanie, you said that this might be like a whole ring and all of that. The prostitute isn't just doing it on their own. Who is pimping out a prostitute in East Palestine, Ohio?
I don't know. It said the operation involved the Mahoning Valley Human Trafficking Task Force. So I assume they're not just I assume they're involved in human trafficking investigations.
Yeah. So,
but you're right. For $140, you're losing money. You have a pimp. They're not making a very high margin, I assume, right? They take a cut, don't they?
Well, and it does make you wonder whether this was some kind of a deal with some trafficked illegal girl or something, or legal American citizen, So you don't know.
It's a bad look.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, another thing I can't figure out, why, Drake, was the FBI snooping around Ole Miss's locker room? How does that happen?
This is the funniest story I've ever read about college football. This might take the cake. So, for those who don't know, Lane Kiffin, you can't turn something into a housewife guy. That guy. He left Ole Miss to go to LSU over I guess it would have been last fall. Anyways, he's a sleazeball. No one trusts him, X, Y, and Z. But Ole Miss, one of the players' dad is part of the FBI, and he did a full sweep. So it's not like they called the FBI up and then they took priority and, stopped doing the important stuff they're doing in Andrew Bailey's office. They just went, one guy who happened to work for the FBI did sweep the entire building for bugs, so there's no cheating scandals, which is the last thing on his bingo card.
Who do they call? Does the FBI just come in anytime someone calls them and says, I think...
Well, no, it's one of the players' dads. That's what I was reading, and, everything I read on the internet is true.
There's another subtext in this story I read that for some reason I wasn't aware of this, but apparently players are going to the professional league and then coming back into the football or the basketball college ranks because of this eligibility thing. But now there's some new news on that, right? Breaking on that?
Yes. So
tell us about that. I didn't know that was going on widespread.
This has been going on for the last month-ish.
Yeah.
Essentially, when you go to a professional league, you're not supposed to be able to come back. But since most of those players went under the assumption that they ran out of eligibility, that they would go to the league and get a small deal.
Mm-hmm.
Then the whole NCAA ruling on a player can choose the new form of eligibility where it's just 5 years to play, and the old one where you could redshirt. Now those players have an extra year of eligibility, and this is the only year that that this is applicable, where
This
they can
was the
get
deal
that extra year.
Didn't the judge decide this and issue some restraining orders so they could do this? I think that was a story.
Yes, so Mizzou actually benefited from this. The defensive tackle, the starting defensive tackle last year, I don't know if he got drafted or signed a contract, but he came back, and that's big for our defense. Another Mizzou player was Mark Mitchell.
Yeah.
And he ended up signing one of those two-way contracts or the prove-it contracts. You're not going to get paid a lot of money, not even G League.
He's a marquee player for us last year.
He was, but since we already budgeted out our entire roster, you can't reallocate NIL. We've already got everyone paid.
Okay.
He wouldn't have a spot on the Mizzou roster, so he ended up transferring, which there was another court ruling that said that you couldn't do that, but not in our jurisdiction. And it's just a whole mess. That's all that this is boiling down to be. It's a mess.
Basically, a big loophole is what it ended up being.
Yes, and the SEC has now put out an official statement that they do not like it, that it's happening. And I'm sure it'll encourage some ADs to think twice before signing one of those players.
But it was a 1-year window only, right? And then, anyway, before this latest ruling by the SEC.
Yeah, so this is the class of 2022 athletes that came in because they, had their 4 years, which would have been up, but now they have 5.
Oh, my gosh.
And after 2027, it won't matter anymore.
I tell you. There's more news going on off the field than on the field these days, it seems like.
Because the season hasn't started yet.
Doesn't that distract players and coaches? I mean, I don't know. Now, you've said, Drake, in the old days that before all of the NIL and all of the portal and so forth, that a lot of this stuff was happening under the table. It just wasn't transparent and semi-official, right? But it seems like so many distractions from if you're a player or coach or one of the many coaches on a team. It's like, can't we just concentrate on playing a good football game or a good basketball game?
Well, I mean, if you don't play well, then you're not going to get paid. I mean, that's just, or the next year you won't get paid. Yeah, it is really distracting because before, when it was under the table, you would get paid, and it's not like you could go shop around and, well, this guy said that they'll pay me this much, because then you're admitting that you're getting paid.
Yeah, a recruit shows up at camp driving a new Trans Am, and everybody just looks the other way.
Yeah, I mean, it was just sort of done quietly, and then you get back to business, right? And didn't worry about it.
I miss the good old days of college football where you could recruit just based off of like the cheerleading squad, and that was it. There was no money. There was no fancy house or cars. It was just, hey, look at our cheerleaders, and then they'd sign.
You know, it occurs to me, but going back to this story about the owner of the 49ers and the prostitute in the mobile home court, what didn't Robert Kraft either got accused of or was busted somehow, the owner of the Patriots, for some kind of a prostitution thing? They dropped the charges against eventually, right?
Yeah.
But he was charged with 2 counts of first-degree solicitation of a prostitute during COVID time. You know? Huh.
Yeah, I remember
owners?
that. It was like right before they won the Super Bowl, too, because it was right before the playoffs. And I've made so many jokes about it, and I don't know why, but the name of the spa is slipping my mind right now.
Is that the one? It was the
something down in Florida.
It was the Orchids of Asia Day Spa.
Yes, Orchids of Asia. That's right.
The Orchids of Asia.
It was Orchids of Asia.
I love orchids. I can't grow them. Once the bud falls off the flower, I can't get it to rebloom again. If anyone knows how, I'd like to know. But Orchids of Asia.
Speaking of massage parlors, the Cleveland Browns did name Deshaun Watson as their starter yesterday.
Oh, well, that was on my radar. I wanted to make sure we covered that. So you said he was vying to get his position back, and he's got it. Does that mean they're not going to do very well? You said he's not a really first-tier quarterback, right?
Yeah, he's not that great. He didn't play well, but also he told the fans that he gets cheered more whenever he has road games, and that the fans suck and all this other stuff. So I don't know what the Browns are doing right now. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's what Coach told him, that his performance just rubbed him the wrong way.
Rubbed him the wrong way.
But a bump. Yeah. I just want them to start playing football. When does Missouri State start? When does Mizzou start? Mizzou's first game is when?
Next
September
Thursday.
3rd, right? Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that's, my gosh.
Next Thursday night.
Holy cow. Against Arkansas Pine Bluff, yeah?
That's it.
UAPB.
Have we played them before?
Yep. I think we started off the season last year with them, didn't we, John?
Oh, I don't remember. I know they were perennial back in my play-by-play days. They were a perennial opponent of the Lincoln University Blue Tigers.
How about Missouri State?
Missouri State
Kelly?
starts on September 5th, Saturday.
Yeah.
They play Texas A&M.
Oh, wait a minute. So Missouri State is the equivalent of the Arkansas Pine Bluff to Texas A&M. They're the sacrificial lamb for the opener.
Yes. Missouri State got a lot of money to play them.
Oh, so you get a lot of money if you're the sacrificial lamb?
Yeah. For the
I
first
didn't
game.
know this. Oh, I wondered why they would do that, because that could be humiliating for those players.
And painful.
Yeah, and I'm painful, right? You're just totally outclassed. But when you look, has anyone kept stats on those kind of games? Those, that they should be pushover first games, and when the big team gets upset. I mean, does that ever happen? No.
Well, I mean, think back to when Michigan got upset by App State. When was that, John? It was less than 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been in recent memory.
So it does happen, but it's rare.
Does happen. Yes.
Wow. All right. Well,
Aggies number 8 in the preseason poll.
Yeah. Is Mizzou even ranked?
Yeah, 25.
Okay. 25th out of 25. Yeah. Well, good. Let's see what they do. And I know Missouri State has a hotshot quarterback, right, this year? I think they have someone.
I don't know.
Supposed to be.
I don't go there anymore.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good. They're going to be good. They were good last year, so we'll have to follow them as well. When we come back, we talked yesterday about more and more older folks are smoking the weed. Think again on making Missouri healthy again.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
To me, being a Democrat, I know that Democrat will take care of everybody. It's not just looking out for the rich.
cannabis use and earlier onset, the older you are. Meaning, if you look at this study in a psychiatry thing, looked at tens of thousands of non-users and users, and they found that among those who used in the earlier age group, like pre-20, cannabis users had onset of psychosis about a year and a half earlier. And as it went older and older in these age group slots, the onset was earlier and earlier, like to the tune of people that develop psychosis after age 30. I'm thinking of this Lindsay Clancy thing, and I don't know if she was a user. People without cannabis certainly get psychosis. But those who get psychosis are going to do it 6.5 years earlier if they're using cannabis. The thought is that cumulative use must somehow, in some people, lower the threshold for developing that terrible, terrible illness. And it's just, I think it gives me pause for thought that we should not tell our children, public health people shouldn't validate the general, I think, thought out there that, hey, this stuff is nothing to worry about. There's no damage done to your brain. It doesn't alter the wiring at all. Well, I think it does. And it's just it's an admonition to, like the same admonition for alcohol. Don't become a regular user, almost at any level. Probably not good. And I think a regular early use of cannabis and its derivatives probably not the best thing for any of us, if that's the way you want to head. It seems like people have become very passé and very accepting of this as just, it's just a little caffeine. Don't worry about it. No big deal. I think it can be a big deal. And this is perhaps the worst example of it, or the most extensive and, deeply affecting type example that we see.
I mean, what's the effect of prescription drugs cumulative use on someone's brain? I mean, I think cannabis oftentimes gets a bad rap, but I think especially when you're talking about like people with cancer or people with chronic pain, that as an alternative, I think, and again, I'm no doctor, anecdotally, that it could be a better option for a lot of people.
Yeah. I recommend it for people with chronic pain. But I think it's a different construct. Those are people who maybe have not used it and then use it as they would a pharmaceutical, but it still has those kind of analgesic benefits. There's no doubt about that. That's a different story and a different construct and a different use and a different study setting. And
you're talking about the recreational users, right?
I'm talking about regular, consistent, early recreational use. I mean, we've already talked about studies that show a reduction in IQ by the time someone's 45 if they started in adolescence.
Just anecdotally, anybody who's been around an old pothead knows that they've got some challenges.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you never say always, every time for everyone, and you never say never, but I think it just raises the chances of problems.
I wonder what the cumulative IQ at the gathering of the Juggalos was.
Oh, important. It ends up with spikes in your head. Stay tuned for more.
Election Integrity to Save America Act with some funding for troops and farmers.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Up at 3:30 a.m. every weekday morning, and she's got a lot to do when she does. From scrambling eggs for breakfast burritos to frying bacon for sandwiches and baking biscuits with a homemade gravy-filled center, Kite regularly prepares a breakfast big enough to feed dozens of people, which is exactly what she does.
Well, that's the beginning of a saga that is hard to believe. Goodwill from a Boone County resident is getting her into trouble with the health department. To help us unravel it is our friend Dave Rowland, Goldwater's director, the Goldwater Institute's director of allied litigation, this hour on Wake Up Missouri. Dave, welcome into the program. And man, tell us this story. I saw this on the news feed and I'm thinking, this is crazy, but you're involved in trying to get her out of some water. Tell us what's going on with Kathy Kite.
Yeah, sure enough. About a month ago, I got news that the Boone County Public Health Department had sent a warning letter to Kathy Kite. Now, to understand what exactly it is that she's doing that kind of raised their ire, Harrisburg is a small town. It's got 300 or so people, maybe even a fewer, and it does not have any place that serves hot food in the morning. They used to have a gas station that served hot food. Ultimately, it decided it wasn't economical to do that anymore, and so they discontinued it, and that meant that the community lost its gathering spot, where the farmers and old-timers could get together and chat in the mornings. And Kathy said, you know what, we need this kind of a gathering place, and if no one else is going to do it, I'll just invite people over to my house. And so she did. And so for a while, she has been just inviting people into her home. They sit, they talk, they enjoy each other's company. She provides them coffee and a little bit to eat. And that is exactly what the county says you've got to get the government's permission to do. I thought this was astonishing. Not because I couldn't imagine the government doing this sort of thing. It's my job to imagine the government doing this sort of thing and then to jump to when we need to, right? Yeah. But the fact that they would go after this little old lady who just wants to help her community and provide a place for people to get together and socialize, it really is pretty astonishing. So we sent a warning letter last week and said, look, you really need to explain to us, what exactly makes you think the government's got legitimate authority here? What part of the food ordinance says you get to dictate who people get to have into their homes, whether or not they get to share food while they're at someone's house? And then, what penalties do you suggest you're going to apply if Kathy continues to host people at her house in the mornings in this way? So we're going to find out whether the health department really wants to push this, whether they try and figure out some way to wiggle out of it. But as of right now, the responses that they have offered the media have been that they think that they're justified in doing this. So if they hold their ground, we may well have to take them to court over it.
Well, is there any history of them doing this to people before?
Not so far, well, certainly not in Harrisburg. So the thing is, these food codes are designed to deal with restaurants and grocery stores. That's what they are designed to do. But the model food code that's been adopted over and over all over the country is written so broadly that it can indeed be applied outside of commercial contexts. So we ran into this in St. Louis a few years back where they cited a pastor who for 40 years had made it his ministry to share food with the homeless, right? He's doing exactly what the Bible says you're supposed to do. And we sued over that one. And ultimately, the court said, well, he's allowed to provide them certain kind of foods, so not others, so we're not going to consider this a constitutional violation. But also, that didn't involve interfering with what people do in someone's home. And so we think that the situation is really different here. But the bottom line is the food codes are, in fact, written in such a way that they think they can go after somebody, even if there's no money involved, even if nobody is expecting any compensation for, just simple hospitality.
Yeah, Dave, that was my question about if she's not charging folks for this, it's technically not a business, right?
Oh, it's not in any way a business. No, not at all. This is basically the same thing as churches having potlucks or people having tailgating parties where basically anybody who walks by is welcome to grab a hot dog or something like that. Backyard barbecues, block parties. These are all fundamental bedrock elements of American society where people might be able to get just a bite to eat from somebody that they don't know. And the government is saying we have a right to intervene. We have a right to prevent people from sharing food under these circumstances. And it's just preposterous.
Wasn't there a big dust up in the legislature last year or the year before over lemonade stands? And I think it was outside of St. Louis, and the food people were coming after kids who were trying to sell like 25-cent cups of lemonade or something. And I think they
That was also one of my cases.
Okay.
Yeah, so it dealt with a couple of Girl Scouts in Hazelwood over near St. Louis who had a cookie stand in their front yard.
That's crazy.
And one of their neighbors complained, and so the city tried to crack down on them. From that case, which was actually back in 2010, 2011, a group in Utah, the Libertas Institute, drafted model state legislation that would basically legalize pint-sized entrepreneurship. And so 15 states nationwide, including last year Missouri, have adopted a law that says young kids are allowed to have lemonade stands and they don't have to comply with any permitting requirements. But before those laws were passed, in fact, you had cities all over the country that were regularly telling kids, you're not allowed to have lemonade stands unless you get the government's permission. It was ridiculous.
We're talking with Dave Rowland, the director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute. Now, Dave, this whole thing has come about, and they are using under the auspices of the cottage law, right, which allows institutes like this or institutions like this, facilities without a license and without a commercial kitchen to provide baked goods and jams and jellies and the very narrow but not warm cooked items like burritos and stuff like she's doing. But as I read the letter from the Boone County Health Department, it said that there was a complaint. Can the person who made the complaint be in other words, what happened to the due process where Kathy Kite, shouldn't she know who her accuser is? And shouldn't those 300 great people, including the ones that are benefiting from her good, shouldn't they know who that person is? So I'm just saying, when they see him on the street, they can say, poop on you, you did that to me.
We would very much like to know the complaint was submitted anonymously. So I got a copy of the call log from when the complaint was submitted. And it was one of the things that was crazy about it is a bunch of the information that was provided by the anonymous caller was completely false. So one of the things they said is that there were cats all over this house.
Oh, boy.
And Kathy doesn't have any cats. She's allergic to cats. And her house is professionally cleaned. It's bizarre. We're not sure why the person included demonstrably false details, but they did. And it was anonymous. So we do not know who made the call. We don't know anything about that. And we're probably not going to be able to find out. But the bottom line is the government has no business telling people what they are allowed to serve in their own homes to their guests, right? If you have people over to your house, the government shouldn't require you to fill out a checklist making sure that your dinner plan is approved, right? They don't get veto power over your Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yeah. I think we ought to probably issue some brown shirt type of uniforms for the health department. Now, I guess they would say, look, we received a complaint. We don't go out to Cosmo Park or your local Boy Scout outing on a Sunday morning and make sure that everything is hunky-dory, right? Unless someone
they're just
complains.
Following orders, Randy. They're just following orders.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, from there, I guess I'm always trying to find I bet if you could give them a little truth serum, maybe go have a couple beers with them, they'd probably say, yeah, it's sort of silly. But when we have a complaint, we got to do something. This is the law. Right? I mean, so the law needs to be changed.
That's the line we get from bureaucrats all the time. The line we constantly get from bureaucrats in these situations is we got a complaint, we had to do something. That's what they said about the Girl Scouts in Hazelwood. And the bottom line is no, you don't have to act on every complaint, and you have to understand the limits of legitimate governmental authority, and this is way beyond the limits. You do not get to intrude into people's homes and dictate who they are associating with and what they are sharing while they're there.
This is just outrageous. I mean, every little small small group Bible study now is probably quaking in their boots, right? Am I going to be next because some of the atheist down the street gets wind that I'm running a Bible study in my house and we're having some pizza? I mean, it gets crazy, right? I just
yeah, exactly. That is precisely the scope of the authority that they are suggesting. Is if you have people into your home and you're serving them something other than baked goods, then you have to get the government's permission.
Oh my God. I don't know where. So what happens next? Is Kathy temporarily restrained? Is she boldly going forward and serving food? Where is she now and where is it going?
Well, initially she put things on pause because she was scared. She actually got a call from someone at the health department who said that if she didn't stop, she was going to go to jail.
Oh my God!
And so she was worried about that. And even when she started welcoming people back in the mornings, there were some people that were afraid to go because they don't want to get her in trouble.
Yeah.
But she is still welcoming people over, and there are still some people coming, and so she's hopeful that her home can once again become kind of the community focus that she had been enjoying for some time.
God love her.
Dave, wouldn't the solution be to get her 8-year-old Girl Scout granddaughter to run the show, and then she's protected?
That's an innovative solution. That's something we'll have to take a look at for sure.
This is the kind of thing, Dave, that just gets people's blood boiling. It's like, for crying out loud, for a woman trying to do a good faith thing for her community, and Lord knows our little communities are gradually, losing those resources that bind communities together. And here she is trying to grow it organically from the home, and she gets beat up by a government institution. It is just unbelievable, brother.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of pro-social behavior that we should be encouraging, not trying to discourage. And part of the reason I do the work that I do and have done for more than 20 years now is because we understand these kinds of basic freedoms are constantly under threat one way or another from one angle or another.
Yeah.
And if we do not step up and forcefully advocate for freedom and liberty, then government encroachment is just going to continue. We have to be willing to draw a line and say no further. So this is one of those lines.
Our friend Dave Rowland, I dub you the Paul Revere of government tyranny. That's what you are. The bureaucrats are coming. The bureaucrats are coming. All right.
More importantly, help is coming in the form of the Goldwater Institute.
There you go. Director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute, Dave Rowland, joins us. Hey, keep me informed of this, would you? Let's get you back on when something turns in this, whether it's legislatively or in the courts. Let's get this done.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. All right. I reached out to Dave, and he's at a conference, so he took a little time out to do this. We thank him for that. Boy, I am glad there are good people like Dave in the Goldwater Institute and his own institute, the Freedom Center here in Missouri, fighting the good fight for freedom. Back with more in just a moment.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Anyways, I just had something to say about the whole Kansas City and the Kansas City moving.
Well, they came up with Buffalo first, Kansas City second, Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
How did they? Well, Buffalo's
Swifties,
your team, man.
I agree. But there are a lot of the fangirls who, love Josh Allen, but also the Bills Mafia has one of the best tailgating spots, and they will show up even if there's 10 feet of snow. They really will.
Now, the theory is on this story is that in smaller markets like Buffalo and Kansas City, which is it's not Los Angeles, not Los Angeles and New York are 29th and 30th in this list, okay? And the theory is there's not a lot of competition, there's not as much competition from other major league sports. And so the fan base gets concentrated on that sport. That makes sense.
Yep. That's exactly what's going on. I mean, Kansas City, they have the Royals, but they usually aren't great. But even then, you're both a Royals and a Chiefs fan. You're going to buy the jersey.
Has anyone ever done a study to see the gradient of passion from the east side of the state to the west side of the state for Kansas City? In other words, from St. Louis, is there, on the passion for Kansas City Chiefs scale,
it's a lot lower.
I think it is.
And that's what the move to Kansas is ruining for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Those people are able to go to the games. There's no Kansas people who are right in Kansas City that aren't going to go to the Chiefs games.
Yeah.
You're chasing off half of a fan base that already got their hearts ripped out by Roger Goodell and the Cronkies. So, I mean, it's just a stupid move all around. Money-hungry people.
Well, I guess it's like hockey, right? I mean, I think from west to east, there is increasing support for the Blues, right? But Kansas City probably could give a darn about the Blues.
Hey, at least our ownership isn't going to trailer parks looking for hookers.
Callie, she
to our knowledge.
We got to tell her to stop wearing the Blues jersey. Every time I see her, it's the Blues jersey. She's laughing. Oh. Hey, Clarence Thomas was on the...
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think the people are fair enough.
to these days. I mean, he is constantly demeaned and denigrated by people on the left, the media, and he's just 2 years short of having the longest tenure of any Supreme Court justice.
I had the opportunity about 10 days ago to hear Ted Cruz speak for more than an hour about goings on in D.C., but also about this book. And it was particularly insightful as I had a bunch of my friends from Missouri with me and then a bunch of my friends from Missouri who have recently relocated to Washington, D.C. And it was, where were we? We were in Detroit, but really particularly insightful and special for those of us from Missouri. And yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, many people have seen the documentary that was done several years ago, but I have a copy of this book on the way to me. I'm excited to read it. And Thomas plays a long game. And I think Cruz's book is emphasizing his commitment to originalism and his willingness to kind of write what might be solo opinions, dissenting opinions, what might initially seem a little bit like, where's he going? But he's really playing the long game, and that many of his opinions he knows will become influential years later. And so I'm really looking forward to the book.
John, did you see that movie Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words? I know, Steph, you saw it, right? John, have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I heard it's pretty good. You know, when we talk about Clarence Thomas, Senator Schmidt mentioned it the other day. That Clarence Thomas's ties to Missouri. He was an assistant attorney general in the Missouri Attorney General's office way back when under A.G. Jack Danforth, who went on to the Senate.
I've heard liberal. I know a few attorneys that are liberal. At least, one in particular I know, who makes no bones about beef and bones about it, that Clarence Thomas is only there because of affirmative action and he's a DEI choice. It's embarrassing. I think he's made some of the most concise, and again, this is from a lay person. You as an attorney would appreciate it even more, but when you read his opinions, they're crisp, they're clear, it's common sense. To the average person,
rooted
it makes
in the
sense.
Constitution.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, it seems so straightforward. Thanks, Clarence. But I guess he gets demeaned for that, right? Because he's not full of a lot of pomp and circumstance and embellishment.
No, remember his confirmation hearings with Anita Hill and the Coke can and all that foolishness, and he still got confirmed.
Well, and I think as we've seen, I think some shifts in the court here more recently, where maybe some of the justices are more public facing, or you see a little bit more criticism. He's always kind of in the background. He never wants to be front and center. You don't see him at a lot of public facing events, and yet he continues to be just a conservative stalwart and so influential. And I think, I think when we look at legends of the Supreme Court, and we many years from now look back, he's going to be one of the most influential justices we've ever had.
One of the scenes that I remember vividly from that movie is when they have very candid scenes of him interacting with his clerks. And it's just so heartwarming because it's just like a dad and the kids, And now maybe that's the way all the justices are with their assistants or with their clerks. I don't know. But he's just like a real authentic human being. There was just no, pomp and circumstance, no posturing. It was just real. So I'm anxious. I'm going to try to read that book, too, and we'll see.
No, the rankings have always said, at least in recent history, that Clarence Thomas is the furthest right judge in the history of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Judging from his rulings and decisions and all. Ahead of Rehnquist and Alito and all those guys.
Yeah. He and Alito, I think, have really taken over the mantle of Scalia. When that tragic, unexpected loss occurred.
Yeah, Judge Gorsuch, a close third in that
Gorsuch
regard.
Too. Yep, Gorsuch too. He's been a little sometimes on some of these cultural things, like with the trans thing and all of that. There's been a couple decisions where on the matter of gender and sexuality and how that blends into discrimination law and so forth. Been a little bit sometimes unpredictable there. But you're right. Gorsuch is pretty solid there, too.
He's kind of been the lead guy when it comes to interpreting statutory stuff, as Steph and the lawyers would say. He's been right there with that.
Yeah. We're having some interesting text on the on the text line. A lot of people are worked up over the story we talked about with Dave Rowland about this woman who's serving in the absence of a local eatery where the locals gather before they head out in small Harrisburg, Missouri, in central Missouri, just north of Columbia. And that was my question. It's like, who's the guy or gal that turned this woman in? She's cooking breakfast so people can, get together before their day starts and have a little community fellowship in her home. And John says, who's the a-hole that turned her in?
If you didn't hear it from Dave Rowland himself, I know there's been a lot of chatter in mid-Missouri about the AI videos about the mayor. You would almost think, if there was an AI video about this story, you would believe it was made up. I mean, it's that unbelievable what they've done to this poor woman.
Yeah. It's
like something out of The Onion.
Right. Babylon Bee style. I mean, just...
Speaking of AI stories, we should probably play a little bit of that. There's been the behind the story on that was that Mayor Barbara Buffalo had put out some kind of a video, and then someone came out with a meme on it that was like, well, when I get back from vacation, I'll fix the streets and I'll do this and that. And I guess it makes me think, well, that's funny and it's clearly AI. Are we entering an era when someone can be misstated or misrepresented in what their policy positions are, and it can seem very authentic? And are there statutes to remedy that? I don't know how that's all going to work out. I mean, we already have commercials that misrepresent. People take a vote on a large omnibus bill that has something that's sort of not aligned with their general philosophy, and then the next election cycle, that's what the opponent says. Oh, he voted for this. Well, yeah, but he got 99% of what you would have wanted, That's different than using an AI to totally misrepresent what someone's doing. I'm a little concerned about that. It bothers me. 573-874-9390, the text line. The caller line, 800-529-5572. How did Justice Thomas make it to Missouri? Asked Emmett. I don't know. That's a good point of history. Wasn't he raised in, was it rural Mississippi? And I remember
somewhere down south, yeah.
I think it was his grandpa or his uncle who drove an oil truck, a heating oil truck. We hear these stories. J.D. Vance, it was his, what was it, mama?
It was Danforth that brought him to Missouri as an assistant AG, because he went to Yale and then came to Missouri.
Yeah. Didn't he go to like a prep school, like a parochial school, I think, for something in his youth?
Yeah, I think he was a Holy Cross guy, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day in Massachusetts.
Well, I mean, in his high school days, I thought. But it's really an amazing one. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful story of how only in America can you start in absolute, utter, just desperate poverty, and with the right upbringing and the right guidance. And I think that sort of those guardrails that sadly a lot of children just don't have, you can end up being chief, not chief, but justice of the Supreme Court. That's pretty amazing.
And actually his Missouri connection was even before that, because after he, in the fall of 1967, he entered Conception Seminary College.
Yes, that was it.
To become a priest.
When?
Initially. 67.
67. Yeah, to become a priest. That was it.
Yeah, because he's talked a lot about his conversion to Catholicism at a very young age.
Yeah.
Then he went to Massachusetts.
Went to Yale.
Then went to Yale and then returned, took the Missouri bar, and then worked for then Attorney General Danforth.
It just really gets my goat that anytime anyone like this succeeds, the left is automatically like, oh, they're DEI. But yet if we point out that someone who's absolutely on the right, if we point out that someone is an absolute incompetent boob, that's clearly a DEI hire, well, that's off limits, right? So again, it's sort of a one-way criticism in the political sphere, but I guess that's the nature of the political sphere. John, what's coming up when we come back?
Oh my, the bear ate the colonel.
There's so many ways this can go, folks. You'll have to stay tuned to figure it out. Only John can unravel that when we come back on Wake Up Missouri.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
She went to bed. The bear, estimated to weigh 600 to 700 pounds, wandered in, ate the food, and shattered a glass table. While North slept through the encounter, her sister lives in the trailer next door, was also awakened by the bear. North said a few days later, a 300-pound cub showed up on her porch as she made dinner and says, I keep the front door shut good at night now, and said apparently 7 p.m. is bear time. As for the big bear, it apparently polished off an entire bucket of mixed chicken, both extra crispy and original recipe, 3 quarts of mashed potatoes and gravy, a box of biscuits, several to-go apple pies, a 5-pound unopened sack of cat food, and 4 empty plastic dog dishes.
Holy cow.
That was a hungry bar.
That sounds like Drake's meal after a long practice on the football field.
Man, I don't know. That's coal mining country out there. I don't think those guys take too kindly to bear coming in and eating their KFC.
You have to ask the question, how did the bear enter? Was the door unlocked? And
she had it propped open.
Oh.
And then came the bear.
Yeah.
Why did I catch flack there, Randy? Why? No, I wouldn't
I know
eat
you
cat
just,
food.
But I'm just, the point is you work out hard on the field and then, eat a lot. I mean, I've heard that those...
Whoa. How do you think I keep this slim figure, Randy? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Stays away from the cat food.
That's what it is. And don't eat those plastic... That's macroplastics. No microplastics there.
No kidding.
Why would you eat an empty... Well, if you're a bear, I guess you could eat what you want. Why would you eat an empty
still
bowl?
Smelled from the dog food that had been in the bowls.
Yeah, indiscriminate.
Yeah.
Because the metal ones were too hard, Randy. Duh.
That's it. Chip a tooth on the metal ones.
These stories of wild animals intruding on people's...
We're about due to see a black bear around our neck of the woods. Been a while.
Yeah.
Wasn't there just one by the...
Oh, yeah, Columbia.
Yeah, wasn't there one up here?
Columbia had one,
Yeah. You're right.
Well, Mayor Buffalo was riding a rainbow rhino in that meme. Yeah.
Is that clean?
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, it's all good.
Many of the AI videos are...
Don't worry, we're training Callie, so this will be good for her to know how the dump button works.
The quick finger, huh?
I previewed it. It was all good. And so she's riding this is a meme where it's sort of a rainbow-colored, what is that, a buffalo, right?
It's a buffalo,
of course.
yeah.
And not a rhino, a buffalo, and here it is.
What a mess. I'll fix this when I'm back from vacation. Look at this chaos. Drug addicts everywhere. Robberies and break-ins. This has to stop. I'll fix this mess when I'm back from vacation.
Terrible.
And it says, there's a sign on the side of the buffalo that says, protect trans buffaloes. I imagine the mayor, she's a good sport. And she actually, I've had some really great interviews with her. And
she's mad about it.
She's a good sport.
No, she's been posting on her
Well, she shouldn't get so mad. She should have some fun about it.
No, I remember back in the day when you made like political videos and it took effort. It took, thought process, not just typing into ChatGPT. That's what's made me not like ChatGPT. It's the stupid people who are like, oh, I'm going to start making AI slop and all this other stuff. No, let's go back to our basics.
Sure saw a lot of it during the recent election, didn't we?
Yes, we did, John.
But the other way people look at that, though, is it might unleash the creativity that people otherwise wouldn't do. It's like, I have an idea, but I don't
rainbow buffaloes. This is the peak that we're getting with this. We're opening up creativity. We're not opening up creativity.
No, you are. Because you have this idea, but if you're not a techie...
Not all ideas are good,
If you're
Randy.
not a techie, well, only mine. But if you have an idea, but you're not a tech whiz and you can't produce a video... Up till now, you're like, okay, idea dies.
You hire someone.
Yeah, and there's a difference between using AI like in your office or to create an app or to like make your business function more efficient. That's a proper use of AI. But yeah, using AI for these slop social media posts, I think, is lazy and a bad move.
I don't know. I think it's... You come up with a good idea. You don't know how to make a video and fancy this and that. Okay, so you have a vision. It's like the producer of a show or a TV show. You may have a general idea of the way you want to go, and then you just need someone to put it into. And instead of hiring a whole technical crew, you just do it that way.
You don't need a whole technical crew.
I think if you know how to do it and you care about doing it right, you can utilize AI in a way that that still advances your cause. I think you can also use it in a way that makes everyone look silly.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back in a little bit. We'll talk, why doesn't everyone try to think of, let's generate as many AI videos that we can, and we'll review them. 573-874-9390. More coming up on Wake Up Missouri.
actions around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone.
Well, that was Scott Bessent yesterday talking about the Second World War of this D-Day, if you will, of the Middle Eastern conflict in Iran, as it's called the economic outcast, they're calling it. And that's the name of it formally, even though they're calling it really a D-Day, knockoff. And they're going to go after, what'd you say, Stephanie, 60 or 70 different, vessels and other outlets where people are doing end-arounds and either laundering Iranian money or finding ways to fund them and, help sustain them. He claims they're going to choke them off. That's one of the big stories we're following today. You think it'll work?
No.
Okay. What do you think, folks? 573-874-9390.
As long as they can keep, because they've said they're going to retaliate, and as long as they can keep putting a chokehold on the strait, I think we have a problem. Then they've got us in a bad spot,
Right.
and and then we get pressure from everyone else, because when they choke off that strait, it doesn't just affect us; it affects a lot of people.
And so it does affect, I think, these gas prices. I don't see them coming down if the retaliation unfolds as the Iranians immediately after this statement yesterday afternoon. They said they're going to retaliate. They're going to take it out on ships trying to cross the straits. Meanwhile, it was reported over the weekend. I think it was J.D. Vance that said, "Hey, we've got 400%, more shipments in the last couple of weeks than we had before." I haven't seen that at the gas pump when I filled up. The gas pump stopped. The diesel gas pump stopped at $175 with my truck, and it wouldn't let me fill anymore. I'm just devastated. I'm driving my wife's car an awful lot now. But anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. Whether you drive gas or diesel, it's devastating on pocketbooks.
So $3.94 this morning coming in.
Oh man,
on gas.
Not going to get better. The other news.
I think it was driving through Ohio. I think it was like $5.50 or something. I got a text from my sister that said, "Make sure you fill up before you get to Ohio."
And then, Stephanie, in the other news, at least another temporary win on this whole issue of can the United States Postal Service, can the executive order that orders the United States Postal Service that prohibits them from mailing out ballots in those states where they have not provided validated voter lists. Supreme Court gave the Trump administration a temporary win.
Not a temporary win, but a win on a temporary ruling. It's kind of a procedural.
Preliminary win? Would that be a better statement?
I think that's a better statement, but certainly definitely a good thing here. But they essentially, what was it, a 6-3 vote, and there was a pause on implementing the executive order, and they removed that pause, essentially saying that the Democrat states that sued were suing too early. And so it's kind of a procedural move, and a lot of people were saying, "Woo, big win, woo," but it's not as big as everyone thought, because they haven't really ruled on the merits yet. They've got to wait for the USPS to actually move forward with proposing and actually adopting a rule.
Yeah, there was a rule they proposed in March, and I guess so it's coming, that 90-day thing is over, and they're going to try to litigate that against the timeline of getting ballots out in those states where they start early. Well, we were talking about AI last segment, and if you're just joining us on Wake Up, it's a constant thing, whether you're talking about how do we supply the data needs and all of the conversations about data centers and this and that. But the AI itself now, with the start of college, many of you are supporting your youngsters going to colleges. Many of you are borrowing money to go to college. How would you feel if you spent bucks to enroll in a college course and you found out that the instructors were using AI avatars as instructors? Harvard is doing this. New York Times reporting that faculty members at Harvard's business school, of course, a legendary, esteemed business school, have volunteered to create clones of themselves for an 8-week entrepreneurial boot camp. And it's a $700 program. And they can use these avatars to rehearse pitches and for board meetings. And they're using virtual guides that are avatars, not the professors themselves, to I guess, sort of proctor and, sort of curate the kids' presentations. And they give an example. Here's a picture of one that represents a college professor at Harvard. And this would be like a coach, I guess. I don't know. What do you think about that? Has Harvard jumped the shark? What do you think?
I don't hate it. I mean, I recall some early folks who were into AI, and they were mainly in the form of written media, and they wrote a lot of articles, and they had started kind of an audio version of the article. And I think there are people who, you know, you could write, if you handed someone a book with all the information they're going to get from this video that looks like a person, a lot of people struggle with picking up that type of learning. And so turning good learning into a different format that might be more easily digestible by people, I don't think necessarily is a bad thing, but I think we have to be really careful. And I think actually the folks that I knew that did that discontinued that because it was boring, right? I mean, just reading out, turning a written word into audio doesn't make it any more interesting. And I think, anybody who's been in a college class, the fun part of it is kind of the improvisation of it all, hearing what questions your classmates have, being able to ask your professor, having a dialogue back and forth. And so I think, spewing a lesson, in a video format at people. I've taken online courses. They're hard to stay engaged with and be interesting.
But I think in this instance, the best I can tell, this would be analogous to, like, let's say you're in your law school and you're learning to present, I don't know, an argument to the judge, right? Or to the jury. It sounds like they can, like, if you're in this business entrepreneurial class, you would come up with a pitch as though you're presenting it to a boardroom, and you would present it to a fake professor, but with the professor's mindset.
It's like ChatGPT with a face.
Yeah.
Like Shark Tank.
And it would use their philosophies and what it knows about them to kind of generate a response. I still think that is not as good as the real thing.
Well, and how reliable is it?
But I think it's also cheap, right? I think they're offering it for a pretty fair price.
$700.
Yeah, that's
how
not bad.
reliable is it, though? I mean, we know that AI can mislead you. It can have hallucinations. It can give you falsehoods. So how does the real professor know that the advice given would represent what they would have said? Are they doing some analysis and some feedback on? Are they reviewing this? Who's doing the circle around?
Some real lib algorithm attached to all of it, and it'd probably be right in their wheelhouse for these Harvard professors.
It makes me think, Helene saw the other day that there's a pastor who's doing the same thing. So that the pastor, when he goes on vacation, pastors do a lot of pastoral counseling. People come to them, they're having a divorce, they're having a terrible illness, the financial calamity, they lost their job. And instead of, having to always do the pastor somehow created an AI, integrated a lot of the advice they would give to these kind of people. Probably there's a lot of the same old, basically template stuff that you adapt for the situation. I don't know. But somehow this pastor has developed this AI tool that does counseling in his absence.
That seems scary.
What do you think about that?
Didn't we see the AI Jesus a while back?
Oh, that's true. And now OpenAI has introduced ChatGPT for teens. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? Oh, man. Woo.
I mean, I think the idea of introducing it for teens is putting guardrails in it so that they don't have full access. So I think that's probably better than giving them full access to it, right?
I just kind of wonder out loud on this whole, lack of a better term, business boot camp that Harvard's floating out there. We've got a pretty strong sales team in this company, and they do a lot of live one-on-ones.
Yes.
I mean, in their weekly meetings, they're making pitches to the boss, they're making pitches to coworkers and all. And you wonder about an AI avatar into the mix, if it would be as spirited or as as good and productive as one-on-one with the real folks. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the best business counseling, you want to know what you need to do, run a business. Mm-hmm. For many careers, the only way to do it is to just try and fail and try and fail and try and get better each time and learn from your own mistakes. It's, same for law school, and I'm sure to some extent for medical school. Like, you have to actually do it, to learn how to do it. And I mean, a lot of people can talk a big game when it comes to business, but implementation and execution and hard work are things you can't teach out of a book.
Truer things have never been said. How many people have gotten the romantic idea that they're going to buy a restaurant? I want to be who doesn't want to own a restaurant?
I think about it all the time.
Well, but until you've bust the tables and washed the dishes and prepped the food and come in.
Too hard to work.
Yeah, you don't understand the business like that. And it's probably true about a lot of businesses. It looks good. The grass looks good on that other side, but not always so green until you do it. Oh, this is just an interesting thing. This OpenAI says that it's going to bring a new experience for the kids, a number of youth safety protections, nudges for teen users to take a break if they've been active for 90 minutes within a 3-hour window. Wait a minute. So that's the threshold? Half of a 3-hour window? Callie's like, Am I hearing that Callie spends more than half
Drake,
of a 3-hour
let's see your
window?
screen time.
No, we're not doing that here. But
Don't ask me.
Yeah, the booth is not going to show you our screen time. I don't know. Don't you kind of have ChatGPT open in another window whenever you do stuff with ChatGPT? You don't just hop on, do the thing, and then get off.
One of my 72 windows that are currently open? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the last one. I need another window. All right, when we come back, let's get a window onto the markets with Stephanie Bell.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
0.28%, the Dow up 0.26%. As we look at the sectors, technology was down pretty big, while we saw big gains in utilities, financials, and consumer staples. As we look at the markets this morning, we're expecting some more economic data out this week, but as we look at them this morning, all the futures are in the green. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about AI this morning, and this story crosses over into that territory. This headline from the Wall Street Journal caught my attention. The key to a killer resume is your perfect scrambled eggs. And what they are saying is that essentially now everyone is using ChatGPT to build the perfect cookie cutter, polished resume. And so what's catching folks' attention is, and they were specifically talking about in more buttoned up industries like legal recruiting, like banking. They said associates who put things like training miniature dogs, building birdhouses, and perfecting restaurant quality scrambled eggs stuck out enough to get that candidate's resume at the top of the list. And they said, hey, when when you've got a pile of resumes on your desk, everyone is highly qualified. Everyone's got similar credentials. They've got good schools. They've got comparable experience. One weird little detail shows a little bit of personality and something to talk about in the interview, and that might get you just enough across the line to get that interview. So,
so like on your interview, you'd say, "Oh, I happen to own a trolley car company," right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, I think we're in an era when there's so much incoming, and we've seen it in politics. We see it everywhere. What's your differential advantage, right? And when everything else is perfect, that little interesting, eclectic thing might be the difference maker.
Yeah, it's a story. Like now what's really important is personal branding. And I think when you find people who are passionate about various things, oftentimes if you're very passionate about a hobby and obsessed about birdhouses or whatever it might be, you're passionate in other areas of your life. And so I think folks are finding out that being an interesting person, I think it also, if you're in the field of sales or personal development, being able to carry a conversation and be an interesting person makes you more likable and relatable, and people want to be around you. That's important if you're, having to drive business to your company. So employers are taking note. And thinking, hey, if I take this person to the a cocktail party, maybe they can talk about their birdhouse hobby or making scrambled eggs. And so, if you just write on your resume the bulleted list, I'm proficient in Microsoft Office and Microsoft Excel, there's really nothing interesting about that. But if you, if you're John and you put, I spend my spare time as a competitive hot dog eater, or, Don Luzader, I'm a professional mini golfer.
There you go. Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure that's why he got hired, right? No, but if you are already, a wonderful news guy and you also have this cool hobby, it makes you maybe a better candidate. So think about that if you're in the job market, and if you're an employer and you're thinking, gosh, I believe all of these resumes were created from AI.
Yeah.
Finding those little details might help you determine who took time to apply for your job in particular.
That's really a great point. Now, I don't think many people knew until he started really exposing his beautiful talents at rap that our own John Marsh is a big rap guy, right?
Rap guy.
He can not only talk about it historically, but he can do it, baby. Right? John?
Yeah, boy.
Oh, it's Wake Up Missouri with all of our eclectic weirdness. We're glad you're weird with us. Well, maybe you're not, but we hope you are. A little bit anyway. Is your therapist biased? We asked that question again. Those psychologists are back at it. Agendas creeping in.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like bad stuff going on around me, but
You can call us at 800-529-5572. Many of you listen outside of Missouri. If you're on the road on one of the various apps from our outlets throughout the state, and, of course, on the web applications as well. And, of course, there's that good old radio signal. Now, many people are seeing therapists. It seems to be all the rage. And younger people seeing therapists, older people seeing therapists, it's all the rage. But the Wall Street Journal reporting that way too often, at least in that writer's opinion, too many people are interacting with therapists who have an agenda. And that agenda can slip into the therapy. And maybe that's a good point of discussion. If you pick out a Christian therapist, let's say, and many do, wouldn't you want that kind of a worldview to get therapy? Some would say no. I don't know. One woman who was seeing a therapist during the pandemic for help with anxiety and depression, her goal was to work on communication problems with her boyfriend and mom. The therapist said, just cut them off. This woman's, whose name was Anna Sherlock, said, she told me she had completely cut off her mom and that she wasted all of her 30s on a man. So based on that experience of the therapist, anecdotal as it is, that was her advice to this woman who just wanted and thought that her communications were getting better with the mom and the boyfriend. So here's clues of an agenda, according to this Wall Street Journal article. Set a goal and tell your therapist about it. If you're clear, even if you don't know how to get there, there'll be less room for the therapist to push an agenda. Check your therapist out. Look at their social media feeds. What's their philosophy or approach to divorce or cutting off parents? And here's one I'm not sure I would agree with, but what do you all think? Watch out for directives such as, I think you should, or have you thought? And then the writer in this journal article says, a therapist should be giving the client the responsibility. They should trust you to come up with the best solution for you. Well, aren't you looking for some guidance? Aren't you looking for some help, some suggestions? Would you need a therapist if you had the answer for what was wrong? What do you think?
I mean, I know this is like dogging on therapists, but I think the bigger point right now is just more people should talk to a therapist, even if your therapist might be a little bit biased.
You think more people should?
Yeah.
But okay, let's assume that. That's a good predicate. If that's the case, what would be wrong with saying, look, I don't know what way to go here. Help, show me, give me some help, give me some advice. What do you think? The client doesn't need to take it.
No. But I think a lot of people, what we know now, they, A, don't talk to anybody, or B, they're talking to their computer.
Yeah. The AI.
Yeah. So I think, I think any profession, you're going to have people who have various biases. And I think what people who do talk to professionals, I think anecdotally, there's different fits for different people, and a lot of people will try someone out and think this person and I aren't a very good fit, and find somebody who, you think's a good fit for your current circumstances or your life season or your life philosophies. But I don't think it's, I know, that we've had the conversation before that a lot of therapists are in the realm of cutting people off and protecting your space. And I think that is poor advice.
Yeah, that has become very popular. The victim, you're a victim, not knowing fully the other side of the story, right? And this article talks about it. Sometimes they will label the other person or people that the individual's having problems with. Oh, that's a narcissist. Oh, they're, whatever, bipolar. Well, they've never met him, but apparently therapists are sort of making these judgments.
Well, then you get into the whole debate, too, about therapists. Are they coming from the clinical side of the house? Are they psychologists or psychiatrists? Or are they, all sorts of different, just sort of self-appointed kind of therapists that kind of thing? You'd think they'd have to get a license or something, at least some sort of education. But
I don't know. Tony Soprano had a therapist, so that's all I need to validate.
How'd that work out?
For all things considered, I think it went pretty well. I think. I don't know. I haven't finished The Sopranos yet, so.
I don't know. I just think it's an interesting thing, and I just hear more and more young people, especially I know a lot of young people, several, who have the world on the string, riding on the rainbow, whatever that words of the old Sinatra song is. They're doing great, but they're seeing a therapist. And I'm like, what? Hello, what's the problem?
Maybe the reason they are doing great is because they are seeing a therapist.
Good point. No, but they were doing great before they did. And I know of a few circumstances like that. I don't care. That's great if they want to see a therapist, but they're good relationships, they're prosperous, everything's good. I don't know. We live in a victim society, right? You're a victim. Everyone's a victim.
I'm a victim for running the show. Right, Randy?
You're blessed that we let you run the show.
It's a good spin zone. Good spin zone.
No, we're blessed that you're in the. We had a big discussion during the break. It was an interesting one. Drake refers to the room on the other side of the glass where the board is, and he refers to that as the
booth.
The booth.
Yeah, this is the booth.
I refer to it as the control room.
I would also call it the control room.
So
No. Cal, you have another word for it.
And Brian
I
Hansen.
didn't. I called it the control room.
Brian
Or maybe it was
Hansen.
Brian.
Brian Hansen, being the sage producer he is, says, no. This is the studio. This is where the magic happens. and us in front of the microphone are like behind the microphone. We're the back studio, according to Hansen. So there you go.
The real show is in the booth. I agree.
That's pride in what you do there, Hansen. Oh, man. Well, in another story, Stephanie, you found out that there's this program at the MU Honors College. I don't know much about what that is. And they've scheduled...
Drake doesn't either.
Oh,
very funny. Very
wow.
funny.
Wow. Ooh, man. Yikes.
Tough one.
Tough one there, Stephanie. And there's this program called the One Red Symposium, READ. All incoming first-year honors college students are expected to read a selected book over the summer, and then they attend the One Red Symposium during the Welcome Week. However, some people are having a problem when that symposium occurs.
I think that's true. Part of my issue is, I guess it's scheduled on a Sunday morning at like 10 a.m. And people are pointing out like, hey, that's like a time when many people observe religious practices. So having a mandatory meeting at a time that conflicts with many people's church seems weird. I would say the same thing. And it was kind of making me think in a broader sense how for many years when you were growing up, there were no sports practices on Wednesday nights because that's the night you went to church for your youth group or your activities or whatever. And I think we've totally blown past that. And this was just kind of the latest example in my mind of that. And I kind of wanted to know, like, where you live, do we still kind of preserve Wednesdays and Sundays for people to be with their family or practice religion, or is that something that we've as a society decided is no longer important? And I think it's an interesting perspective because I was talking to my mom about it after coming back from Israel, and of course we got to do a Shabbat dinner and hear about how they settle down on Saturdays and they take a moment. And I thought, and my mom was telling me, I believe Charlie Kirk talked a lot about taking a day away from technology with your religion, with your family, however. And I've been thinking more and more, like, how can I implement that in my own life? Obviously, 24 hours away from my technology is probably not going to be an option for me.
That's traumatic.
But finding...
Even God took a day off.
Right. But finding a Sabbath, even if it's just for a brief moment, and making it more intentional and making it more of a tradition and something that you share with others in your close circle, I think is something that that's been on my mind. And so this particularly also perturbed me, that for many people, they don't take a full day, but they have that 2-hour break where they go to church and they can kind of be with themselves. And so having a mandatory meeting for students in that period seems wrong. But maybe we're past that and we don't care. And
I think we're becoming more secular and less recognized. Although that got me to thinking. I mean, what about Orthodox Jews who enjoy college football? I mean,
they watch the replay. I actually don't know.
They can't go to the game because they're all on. Well, they could go on the Thursday game, the opening game against Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Didn't know Yeshiva had a football team, but okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about that. I mean, because we don't. A lot of activities are planned on Saturdays, and that leaves out a significant number of people that are Orthodox Jewish people. I would think. I don't know.
They have midweek action. They're fine.
Oh,
And
okay.
Don't worry, John. Everyone in the booth was laughing at that joke. Didn't go unseen.
I got the
Thank
joke.
you.
I got the joke.
But you didn't laugh. Come on, you got to give them a laugh.
Yes, Shema. You're right, though. I mean, there used to be
How
sort
about
of
Sandy Koufax back in the day with the Dodgers, who refused to pitch on Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, back in the day when I was my first practice in St. Louis, there were Jewish guys and Christian guys, and it worked out well because we'd cover one another's holidays. We made sure that we all tried to make sure for call coverage we did that. Worked out super. And I think a lot of people do try to whatever influence they have over planning, try to maybe think about those. I know when we had an option on the school board or the hospital board to have a meeting on any one of the nights, we tried to avoid Wednesday evenings because we know a lot of people worship on Wednesday evenings from the Christian side. So, I don't know. Interesting thought. Maybe MU Honors College will rethink this. If anyone there is listening, out of respect to people, because there are those college campus ministries that are actually flourishing these days. Well, let's flourish with wrap up and leftovers when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
makes it, apparently. There's another app called Roost that you can use different animals to deliver your messages. Apparently, there are somehow 700,000 users already. People are very excited, and if this is your jam, maybe you should just get a pen pal and a stamp. Is my thought.
Well, there seems to be some realization that all of this incoming digital involvement is scrambling our brains, and they're going back. Aren't you guys buying the Gen Z going back to LPs and vinyl and some of the old
vinyl's
media? Yeah.
I have an extensive CD collection.
Oh, Callie, there you go. Do you have laser discs? I have laser discs.
No discs. No
cassettes.
floppy disks or laser discs or anything like that.
No, we only pick the good things from history, Randy. We leave the laser discs and stuff.
John,
like
tell
that.
us about floppy disks. John's not listening. All right. Well, I have a couple of the old, what was it that happened the other day? I wanted to use an old program that I hadn't used to try to recover some data from. Where do you load anymore when you have an old, the application for the computer? It's on a disk. Well, the modern laptop, nothing has a disk reader anymore. So what do you do?
It's an external thing.
You have to buy an
plug it
external
in.
one. Yeah. I have one of those somewhere. Yeah. Anyway. John, what do you have?
I've got the story that says, think twice before you decide to whip around that stop school bus now the kids are back in school.
Oops.
The new law raising fines and penalties will technically kick in at the end of the month.
Yep.
Not only will you pay higher fines, you can also lose points on your driver's license. And when the new school bus laws kick in, fines will start at $500 to $1,000 first offense.
Ooh.
So that'll get your attention.
That is significant, yeah.
Slow down in the school zones.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Don't pass the stop buses.
Yeah, and you never can predict what one of these youngsters will do if they dart out or something. I mean, you got to be careful that way. And everyone is very distracted these days. You drive down the road, and people are texting when they're driving. They're doing, come on, Callie's. You've seen, people that do that, right, Callie?
Of course.
I
don't do that, of course.
Drake,
Are you
people
taking
that text and drive.
Page from my book. No, I don't text and drive.
Don't text and drive. Use your CarPlay if you can. And call. Take calls, don't text.
Yeah. Do you guys ever call anymore? Do you ever dial anyone on your phones, or is it all texting?
Well, I don't dial anyone because it's all in the contacts.
Well, not, you know what I mean. Push the numbers. Do you ever phone call anyone?
Yes, I call people.
Really? Okay, dial. One ringy dingy.
You put your
two
finger
ringy
in the hole and
rotary phones. I've seen where rotary phones actually are out there. People are using them. There should be a rotary phone.
They're popular for weddings.
It's slow.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I think there's one in
You
my
can,
garage
leave
if you
people
really need
messages.
one.
It's like a guest book type thing. They're cool.
Hello? Explain more. What do you mean?
Well, they're like little phones that you can, instead of, signing a guest book and leaving a message or whatever, you pick up the phone and you leave them an audio message.
So there's like an old style phone with a rotary dial at the wedding, and you leave a message.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's sort of cute.
It's probably cuter at the first part of the evening than it is at the later part of the evening.
No, that's when it gets fun, Stephanie.
All right. Nostalgia reigns. The Empire strikes back. There will be our day. All right. We'll see you tomorrow on Wake Up Missouri.